Hello, I am Dawn Marie Solis with EQ Solutions U 2.0, and I am here with my wonderful, totally loved, appreciated, respected friend, Emma Krishnaswami, who I have known since she was a tyke. I have known her dad since he was my brother's roommate in school. This is a family connection that is deep and dear to me, and I'm so excited to be able to have this opportunity to talk with Emma about some things that are really, really important and not necessarily very well known. Emma, you are a musician, an actress, a personal trainer, and now an advocate and social awareness person for
Guess so.
PCOS. Which I explained to Emma just before we started that I can either remember the acronym or I can remember the actual name of the thing. So I have the acronym written down. So I'm going to let Emma take it away so that she can explain who she is and what she does better than I can. Emma, go for it.
All right. Well, so I'll first explain what polycystic ovary syndrome is, which is what PCOS stands for. It's a reproductive metabolic disorder, and it basically it messes with a female body in that the hormones are all over the place. It means like there's too much testosterone being pumped into the body. In some cases, my case specifically, in some cases it can be too much of another hormone, but usually it has to do with insulin resistance. And what happens is in a body that has polycystic ovary syndrome, the ovaries produce too much testosterone, and as a response to insulin production, they produce testosterone, which can hinder menstrual cycles. So basically, when you eat, you produce insulin, and especially when you eat carbs, you need insulin to carry the energy to the cells. And what happens with PCOS or with insulin resistance is that the cells are like, the insulin comes with the energy to the cells and is like, hey, we've got some energy for you. And the cells are like, no, thanks. I'm good. And then the insulin just goes and puts it down as fat, basically. And then as a response, the body will continue to produce more insulin. And which, when you take in too many carbs all at once, like refined carbs or even healthy carbs without something to slow down the processing, the body spikes the insulin. And so then your ovaries produce way more testosterone than is necessary. And then you get things like symptoms that are very hard to deal with practically, just living your life. And then also aesthetically, it can lead to depression, anxiety, social anxiety. So the symptoms range from weight gain, excess body hair, balding, irregular periods, irregular to no periods, painful periods. Did I say weight gain? Like, there's so many symptoms. I'm very fortunate in that I don't have severe pain, but I've got the excess facial hair. And I think I was starting to lose some hair, but that's the thing, it screws with your head. You're not sure if you're seeing something that's happening or not, because it's a possibility for you, but you're just kind of like, I don't know if it's really there. So I could have not been losing any hair and just seeing it. But also I've struggled with my weight. Since I was 10, I've struggled with my weight. And that's really hard when you're in the industry I'm in, and both industries, both personal training and theater. So I basically grew at 15. I started seeing symptoms of it. I grew one little chin hair, and I thought it was the most hysterical thing in the world. I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, that is so funny. I'm growing a beard. And then I just plucked it out, and I thought I was done. No, I was not done. It was only the beginning. And around this time, I actually started dancing intensely. So I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I also wasn't getting regular periods, and people kept telling me, well, you're young, you'll start to see it. Well, time kept going on and periods have never been regular for me naturally. I've been able to get them by getting a supplement of progesterone, but in order to get regular periods, I have to be on some sort of assistance. And so I saw a doctor at 21, first time I ever saw a doctor, because I was raised in this lovely belief that we do not go to doctors. The first time I saw a doctor was when I was 21, and she didn't tell me anything about PCOS. She said I had a lot of issues, but PCOS was not one of them. At 23, I became determined to become extremely skinny, because that's what you do in this society. You're not apparently acceptable unless you are stick thin. But that's changing, and my view on that is very much not where it was. But back then, I really, really wanted to be a bikini model. I really wanted to be super ripped, super toned, just wanted to be the one that everyone on the street would like, whoa, who's that girl kind of thing. And so I worked really hard to do that. I jumped in cold turkey. I started going 5 days a week to the gym. It started over the years, it turned into 2.5-hour sessions, like 4 to 5 days a week, just obsessing, going there as punishment for who I was, what I was, the genetics that I was given. And this was a time when I really, because growing up in Christian Science, you really think, oh, well, genetics aren't really a big deal, because you're taught that there's no such thing as inheriting anything from your parents. So, but at this point, I was starting to see that I was very much inheriting things from my parents, and I wanted so badly to reverse all of it. Did not want to end up looking like anyone in my family. I just wanted to be isolated from that. And so there was this hatred for that I didn't even know was growing, but hatred for where I came from. And I was just, the gym was a place to kind of get rid of that. And this was at this point, 23, 24, 25, I was starting to get like inklings of being a personal trainer. I really liked the idea of helping people at the gym, because while my relationship with the gym was tumultuous, there was a relationship to the way the body works that just fascinated me, because I'd had experience with ballet. And so when I went to the gym, I really just applied tons of principles that I'd learned in ballet to the gym. And it felt like a very natural switch for me. So I just loved learning how the way the body worked and how muscle grew and technique and alignment. It must be an OCD thing with me, but I just love alignment. I love 90-degree angles and like, making sure everything's perfect when you're doing your workouts. Like that's just like a thing with me. And it translates over to my clients. I am nitpicky with them about making sure.
I feel the need to adjust my posture.
I hadn't even noticed. Don't worry.
For Emma.
So at 25, the person I was seeing at the time, I was so upset because everything I was doing was right. I was following all the things that women do to lose the weight and get the flat stomach. And my belly was still there. And it was such a pain point for me because everything else fit great. But then it would just like, it was so uncomfortable to feel my clothes against my stomach because I just knew that it wasn't changing. And my boyfriend at the time said, what if the hair on your face and the weight and the lack of the periods is all linked? And I was like, no. But then I Googled it. And PCOS came up right away. I went and found a gynecologist, I went to my primary care doctor, and he said, let's get you to see a gynecologist to diagnose you. The gynecologist took me through some tests and they diagnosed me with PCOS. PCOS is not a result of weight. PCOS is a result of lifestyle, and also genes play a big part in it too. There are different types of PCOS, so it doesn't necessarily matter if you were predisposed to it or if you had habits in your life that could lead to it. So they told me that I could go on birth control. and I had done my research, no birth control. I'd done my research on metformin, no metformin. It doesn't necessarily help. It can make things a lot worse. And I became determined, which kind of sent me further into this obsession with my body. I became determined to find my own solution. So not only was I dealing with losing weight and trying to get rid of my PCOS stomach, I was also dealing with trying to heal myself. And I knew, so I kept a really close eye on my diet, on my nutrition. I probably intensified my work at the gym. On top of this, I was in a BFA program for music theater. So I was dancing almost every day, and rehearsals every day, and class every day, and acting and singing. And on top of that, 10 at night, if I got out of rehearsal, I was at the gym. Like I did not stop. I just was like determined to get rid of myself in a sense. And so I basically was given no choice. I had to figure out my own path, because doctors at the time and still today didn't know what to do with me. And they treat the symptoms, they don't treat the cause. So it came down to when I was 27, I graduated and I had a huge mental breakdown. I didn't know what was happening, but if you can hear this story, you probably can guess that I had reached my breaking point. I had pushed myself to the maximum, and I wanted to retire. I was like, I want to retire now. I don't want to do anything. And I left the gym. I had a mental breakdown at the gym where I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. All I saw was just this fat person, which was not true at all. And I knew at that point that either I was going to do something about this or I was going to die. That's where it didn't come in the form of words. It came in the form of a feeling that either I was going to change the way I saw my body, or I was going to kill myself. And it wasn't like I was on the way to go do it. I wasn't planning. Right. That was just like, we'll edit that out.
Probably not.
John. I've never been to the breaking point of like, I will go kill myself, but I knew I could feel that is where I would eventually go. If I kept going down this road of obsession and not being able to fix it, I would have seen no alternative. And so I was like, I need to be happy. I'm not present. Gatherings with family, I wasn't present. I was constantly just like making sure that the angles were right. And like, I didn't want people to see what I was. And so it took me about two or 3 years of gently teaching myself self-love again. And that's kind of when the personal training thing, like I still wanted to be a personal trainer, but at that point I was like, how? Like now all my weight loss, like dreams, like I don't want to help people lose weight anymore. But that's where my philosophy of my business now came into place, where I suddenly saw where my place was as a trainer, because the fitness world really lacks what I was experiencing. They lack knowledge. They lack not knowledge, they know about it, but they don't do anything about it, because tons of people that are in the fitness industry go through this and they don't do anything about it. They don't talk about it. So I spent those 3 years rebuilding my relationship with my body. Then we moved out here to Los Angeles from Massachusetts, and I ended up not doing anything when we got out here. I didn't want to do anything. I was still going through, I was overweight. I was in the overweight spectrum. If you look on the chart, looked fine, but to me, it was terrible. I hated it. And then I just slowly was still rekindling my relationship with exercise. The depression just kept continuing. And January 2020, I was like, I can either let this depression keep me down, or I can do something about it and just daily work on myself. And so January 2020, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's fight the feelings of not wanting to do anything and just do stuff. And I started like looking for an agent and a manager at the beginning of 2020. We all know how good idea that was. Then the pandemic hit, and all of that was stripped away from me. I was like, well, the thing I have is my certification, because I had spent a year getting my certification. So I started working on my personal training business and building my Instagram and supporting other people who have PCOS and just showing my journey, taking videos of me getting rid of the hair on my face, taking pictures of it. People really have responded well to that, and just talking about like the daily fatigue, because that's another thing that comes with PCOS, is not being able to get through the day. You just have to, like, I'll fall asleep while I'm reading something out loud. And then from that, I got discovered by the polycystic, or the PCOS challenge, the National PCOS Ovary Syndrome Association. And they invited me to speak on March 4th, tell my story to members of Congress. And here we are. It's a really long-winded story,
No,
but
not long-winded. Beautiful, and I appreciate it. Yeah, and just the person that I am, I wouldn't have wanted to listen to you any other way. Just just all at once. So thank you for doing that. I had a number of different thoughts while you were talking. One was, being someone who has been through body dysmorphia, eating disorders, a lot of bullying around my body, at my thinnest, where I was subsisting on a single piece of American cheese and a glass of grapefruit juice a day. People were still telling me I would never be successful in theater or film because I was too fat. So for me, obsessively exercising, not eating, all of that was a part of my teens and my 20s. And the eating disorders followed me into my 30s. And so I feel like I can relate to some of the things that we were talking about looking in the mirror and not being able to see the reality of you. Just an object of hatred. Just like, just, you know,
and not like, not even your own, it's not your hatred, it's other people's hatred that you've taken on.
Right. Yeah, because I didn't know. For me personally, I would look at my body and not understand what was wrong with it, but other people were telling me there's something wrong with it. And so, okay, I guess there's something wrong with it. But I can't do anything. I can't, I mean, you know, the pride side was when I was obsessively exercising, I could do 200 push-ups with my feet on my bed. I was, right?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I couldn't do that.
I was strong. I had stamina. Still wasn't a long distance runner because I have sports induced asthma. And so I just, you know, if I run for very long, I just start choking and heaving on the side of the track. So that wasn't a thing I could do. Stamina was not a thing, but like, you know, lift stuff. So I could have done like the Highlander games. If I was a dude in a kilt, I could be like throwing trees around. But I couldn't run more than a quarter of a mile without dying. So, you know, I didn't feel like I had any concept of how to be a physically acceptable person. But I'm curious, a little tiny thing that you said clued me into this, about not wanting to be like your family. You're mixed race. And that's not, at least in my brain, that's not physically obvious. People would not necessarily look, you know, you pass, right? People would generally look at you and think, I don't know, Italian, Spanish, I don't know. but you're not, you're Indian, right?
Agreed.
So, and, you know, I did not experience, racism as a white person. I experienced the weirdness that is European. There's European racism. If you don't have a thigh gap, you are not an acceptable white person, right? So please don't anyone misunderstand me. I am not trying to relate myself to anybody with any kind of color to their skin, right? I get it. I have privilege. I know. But there actually are experiences that some people have that are lily white like me that gives us a little bit of a clue into what it's like, because I grew up with Northern Europeans and Italians who had very small noses. I do not. Right? No behinds, no hips, and a thigh gap, and small feet. And my little Scottish self came along with the curly hair and the hips and the bosoms and the everything, and that made me fat, right?
Yeah.
Didn't make me curvy or anything like it. Just made me fat and wrong, and people literally pinching the inside of my leg and asking me, what's that, right? Everybody wants to be grabbed near their vagina and questioned about what's between their legs. That's fun.
That's
enjoy
something
that.
I really, really love. Just something I really want in my day.
So, if you're willing, and it's okay if you're not, because it's a very personal thing.
Oh, I'm an open book.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Being mixed race and passing, I think, is a whole different world of racist bullshit.
Yeah. Because
nobody claims you, because you ain't enough of either, right?
Actually,
you're wrong. You're wrong in every way. And like, you can't
actually,
yeah, go for it.
The Indian culture is not like that at all. If I say I'm Indian, they're like, oh my God, you're one of us. Like with my followers, I have a lot of followers in India and Pakistan. And when they find out that I'm Indian, immediately I'm just one of them. It's really wonderful.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to hear that. That isn't everyone's experience. You know, I have a very dear friend who actually did one of these interviews, and she's a comedian, and a lot of what she talks about is being Black but passing for white. And the fact that, you know, she has these two very different sides of her family that don't necessarily get along.
Yeah.
So, but what was it about, I mean, you definitely, and you and I both come from the same religious background. We have both chosen to find our way spiritually outside of that organized space. But we also both think that there were good and beautiful things about it. I don't think either one of us wants to like go on the tear to put down anyone who practices or anything like that. So when we speak about our personal experience, I hope it comes off as truly that, our personal experience, and not a condemnation of an entire group of people and an entire faith. But beyond coming to the realization that you really did need to step away from the faith that you were raised in, what was that experience of feeling, I can't be like my family, I don't want to be like my family? And did you turn a corner at some point where you're like, okay, right, there's certain stuff I don't want to do, but that doesn't mean I have to not be like them?
I think it was the passing of my grandmothers that showed me the things that I want to keep, because there are angles. When I look at myself, I see them. There's, you know, like little things here and there about my face, pictures I'll see of them. And there's a picture of my dad's mom, Carol, where she's like this. And I could have sworn I was looking at a picture of myself.
Yes, your profile and Carol's are shockingly alike.
They're shockingly similar
in every possible way, except my hair's curlier. In every possible way, I look exactly. I am an identical twin to my paternal grandmother. It is bizarre.
Yeah.
How much I
Yeah.
look like her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And I have Carol's chin, which I really didn't like it before, but when they passed away, it just feels like pieces of them are with me. And so I think
That's so
that was the turning point for me, was being like, honestly, having those people with me for the rest of my life in that way is more important than trying to get rid of what they gave me and trying to be something that society wants me to be. I would rather see glimpses of them in the mirror than not.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope as I get older, I keep seeing that, because that's how I knew them, was old women.
Yeah.
Not as young women.
Beautiful, wonderful people. So
right. Exactly.
Why wouldn't you want to
So
be like them?
I hope as I get older, I continue to see them and, be like, hi. So I think that was the turning point for me. I don't even think I realized I was trying to be unlike my family. Because don't get me wrong, I love my family. I love spending time with my family. We even considered moving back home because I wanted to be with my family. It's not even about that. It's this mesmerism with trying to look like what you see in the media and on social media and in the movies. And
yeah,
it's an illness, really, is what it is.
it is that the inability to see ourselves as having any value. There were times in my life where I would look in the mirror and the things I would say out loud to myself in the mirror, I wouldn't have said to my worst enemy. I would never. And not because it's not polite, but because I wouldn't even feel that way about them.
Yeah.
I would never feel as hatefully toward another person as I felt toward myself, and my inability to be what other people told me I was supposed to be. In college, going through a theater program and having one of the heads of the department say, you're such a talented actress, but you're never going to get a role. You need a nose job. You need to invest in really good wigs. You need to lose more weight. Consider shaving certain parts of your bones. Like, it's why I left that world. And I saw people in the industry at that time, and they were always cast as comedic, and that was fine with me. If I always play, the crazy comedy lady, that's okay with me. But that was sort of what it was. Anybody who looked anything like me, the curly hair, curly hair always goes with crazy. Always.
Or
goes
villainous.
With crazy.
Well, villainous is crazy.
So but I just didn't want to be in a world where only certain types of people could be thought of as beautiful and valid. And because all of these wonderful humans that I loved and I respected, and they came in these incredibly different packages that I thought that's what made the world beautiful, was all these different packages. And I couldn't relate to why people would even want sameness. Why would you want sameness? Why do you only want 15 different actors doing all of the movies, right? Why? So your journey to being able to look in the mirror and no longer have that sense of resistance to you, and being able to see you more in reality, because, oh my God, Emma, you're gorgeous. There are people who would give their left leg to look even half as good as you. I know for me, my journey had to come in. I'm very detail and information oriented. So I had to go totally to logic, right? That's not a bad eye. I kind of like that. That's a nice color. I like that color. It's not bad, right? It's not like falling out. It's like, this is what I had to do, right? Okay, together. They're not bad, right? That's not, I mean, I got skinny lips, but they're not evil. They're not going to eat it, right? This is what I had to do. I literally had to cover up pieces of me and look at myself in bitty isolation to be able to synthesize an acceptance and then an enjoyment of who I am. I now really enjoy who I am, right? Like I am getting gray in this weird like Cruella de Vil streak on both sides of my head. And I can't wait. I hope that's all that ever goes white. I'm gonna be like a sideways skunk. It's awesome. Right? So now I love what makes me different and unique and look kind of crazy. And I'm really embracing who I am in a joy of the gorgeous diversity of the world, right? I want to be part of the gorgeous diversity of the world. That was my journey. What has been yours? How have you come to a better sense of yourself?
Well, it's a constant struggle. It's not gone. I believe it will be with me for a long time. I would like to say not the rest of my life, but I don't see an end to it right now. I think what really helped back when I first started was not using mirrors a lot, because I couldn't see anything. I like my face. Like I don't have any issues with this. There are times when I'm like, well, come on, Emma, we need to fix this or fix that. But most of the time I'm okay with this. It's pretty much from here down, except maybe my legs on occasion that I have an issue with. And I think some exercises that I gave myself, I also listened to podcasts that were very body positive. I changed my feed that I saw, because my feed was very much body image oriented. It was all these booty pictures and abs and like strong women who are wonderful in their right, but were not helpful for me at the time. So I started switching to accounts that PCOS accounts and women who were starting at the time to break through as larger bodied models, and learning that you could still be happy in those kinds of bodies. Because I think what we often think is that happiness is in that body. And I got there. I did. At one point I was there, didn't know that I was there, couldn't see it because nothing was good enough. And people were very concerned about me health-wise. They thought that I was too skinny. And I thought I was fine, because that's what you think when you have these disorders. And so it was the podcast, like Food Psych was one of the podcasts I listened to. And I feel that they go a little too far into, doesn't matter what you eat, but it was very helpful at the time for me to be like, to heal my relationship with food as well. And not be so afraid of certain foods, because that's all linked to your body image, is the food and the exercise. And you eat certain things so you don't look a certain way, or that you do look a certain way. And so like one of the things I would do in the mirror was, if I would look in the mirror, and almost every time my eyes would go down to my stomach, I still do it. And immediately be like, oh my God, I hate it. I just want to I need to hide this. And I would stop myself, because I started being able to hear those thoughts, because you get into those cycles when you're in the throes of the illness, you don't know that those cycles are happening. And I started to realize, because I'd had this epiphany at the gym, I was becoming more aware of those thoughts. And so and I had to do this all by myself. I had no money to have therapy or anything like that. I just had to find other ways. And I definitely did resort to my Christian Science background, because I hadn't left yet. I still considered myself a Christian Scientist. And so I was trying to be like, well, if I am already perfect the way I am, what kind of things do I need to do to see that? And so this was very helpful, finding these tools. But the thing I would do in the mirror was those voices would be so loud. And I would just grab onto something. Like if you're in like a hurricane, a whirlwind, I would grab onto an anchor, and that anchor would be somebody who loves me for who I am. And usually it was John because I was living with him, my boyfriend, and or it would be my mother, or it would be a sibling, or a friend. And then I would expand on that. I would try to grow it into like a garden of things that they loved about me. And I would just do that in front of the mirror. I would just like try to find all the qualities. Why do they love me? They don't love me because I have abs or because I have biceps. They don't love me because I have beautiful brown hair or blue eyes. They love me because of the things I bring to the table. And it didn't get rid of the problem, but it gave me something to hold on to when I left the mirror, instead of absolute hatred for myself. And it would get me through to the next moment. And I can't say, oh, it totally fixed the problem, because those thoughts were still very much there. But they became, the more I did these kinds of things, the more I tried to exercise because I for joy, to find the things I like doing, instead of just for punishment, which was very hard to do because I had such a complicated relationship with exercise. Mm-hmm. Hiking became a burden. I started hating hiking. I was trying that, and I still hadn't figured out that it was the motive behind the exercise that needed to be fixed. It wasn't the exercise, which is something that I work with in my business with my clients, is our motive for exercise. But the more I did these things, the quieter those voices got. I have learned since that if I don't keep doing them, they come back. Mm-hmm. So I went back into working out. Last year, I jumped back in, like right before the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I was like, I've been on this for 2 months. I'm not stopping. But it was for a whole different reason now, because it's always still, I want to lose weight. I still want to look this way. And it's still something I work through. But I didn't work out in front of mirrors for a long time. I just was like, no mirrors. I just don't need. Then I reintroduced mirrors for a little bit. And I was okay for 2 months, and then wasn't doing the mental work I needed to do. And it started to come back. And I mean, when they do come back, I talk about it with John, because I need to hear how ridiculous I sound sometimes when I'm obsessed with these things. But I think the change has come in, I know better when it's happening. I know better how to deal with it when it happens, instead of, and I know that they're not real thoughts. They're not what people want from me. That's not what people care about. And one of the things I'm constantly telling people on my Instagram, my followers and my clients, is that when you get in those ruts, remember that the people around you don't love you because of your abs or your stomach. Remember, they love you for other reasons, and that's why you're here. And that usually helps. So,
yeah. And I mean, honestly, people can very much appreciate the effort we put into what we do. They can appreciate those qualities in us. But if those qualities were to change by our choice or by happenstance, and they would remove their care and affection for us, those aren't really healthy people to have around us. Yeah. And there's work that we can each do to find the courage and strength to release those that don't support our journey. Mm-hmm. Right now in our society, I kind of feel like there's a jump to conclusion. Oh, you've said something negative, therefore I must instantly cut you from my life. Mm-hmm. And having had to do an intense amount of boundary work for myself, because I'm somebody who has been through long-term sexual abuse and sexual attack and other forms of abuse. Like, learning boundary work was important. So I would never want to suggest that you accept bad behavior into your life. Right. But there's a difference between someone who doesn't know well how to support you, but wants to learn because they love you and they want to support you, and somebody who just wants you to change mm-hmm. because they're only interested in a certain kind of person in their life, right? So learning to understand the difference can be quite a journey.
Yeah.
There are people that we hope love us,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe don't. And coming to that realization can be so hard. However, the other side of that work is so worth it. It's the strength you gain and the space you make for the people who will support you and who will be positively impacting your life. It's a little bit like, you know, needing to read a thing and not having enough light. There's something in the way. You get the thing out of the way of the light and now you can read. It's so much more comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So I neither promote instantly throwing people out of your life or not having the proper boundaries, but you need to learn how to do that. You need to be willing to put in the effort and get the help that you need so that you can analyze those situations to your benefit.
Yeah. And boundaries, not just with people, but with your own thoughts.
Yes.
Because you don't have to believe everything you think, which is something I couldn't even, like, when the first time I heard that, it must have been like 27, 28. I was like, what? I don't. Because I feel like it's funny because Christian Science, it's like, you would think you would learn that in Christian Science, but I feel like it taught me the opposite, because I never, like, God was supposed to be this voice that came in your head. And so what was the difference between your thoughts and God? And so who do you believe? You know, it was like,
and I think that's a thing that goes sideways for many faith cultures. Is that how we communicate the beliefs can do damage when we never intend them to do so. You know, for people who are not familiar with Christian Science, the mini explanation is the idea that love is the principle of the universe. It's how the universe works. It's like math is how physics works, right? So love is the way the universe works, and the thing that we call God is love, and also principle of soul and mind and spirit and truth. So what makes everything work is learning as much as you can and scientifically approaching this idea that there's a systematic setup for how things work. And within that setup, you're exactly who you're supposed to be. And anything that goes wrong for you is similar to math when you make a mistake. Math doesn't break. And there's a way to find the right answer, right? So that's a very, very simplistic, and possibly some Christian scientists would disagree with the way I've explained it, but that was my version. And it's the very version that I still relate to my expanding sense of spirituality. But it can be very confusing, this idea of being perfect when you feel fundamentally flawed. And you can't get rid of that intensity of being fundamentally flawed. Well, you're perfect. Yeah, but you're perfect. Yeah, but, right? It just all goes wrong. And there really isn't a good explanation that can settle that without potentially taking a huge step back and reevaluating, what do I want my definition of perfect to be?
Exactly. I was going to say.
In one of the interviews I did with a gentleman named Nate Regier, he talks about a Japanese practice where when a plate or a cup or a piece of pottery breaks, there's a process of putting it back together that includes gold. And so when it's back together, it has this beautiful pattern around all the broken pieces of gold. So it's no longer thought of as broken, it's thought of a new creation. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just broken and pasted together, it's recreated. And it's beautiful. That's the kind of perfection I relate to.
Yeah.
That perfect doesn't mean never broken. Perfect means whatever my process is at the moment, right? That I am acceptable, I'm lovable, I'm valuable just as I am right this minute. And if there's stuff I can do to continue to learn and grow, that's that little gold between my broken pieces, right? So I can continue to grow and become without feeling like I have to reach for some unattainable thing.
Yeah.
That sense of perfection. that
Yeah.
creates perfectionism and becomes way too complicated for all of us. But that I can be everything I need to be and be valuable and lovable right this minute. I can be perfect right this minute.
Mhm.
Still grow and learn and overcome and accomplish. I'm not trying to get to something. I'm just trying to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that perspective that I think can speak back to those voices in our head that aren't really ours.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
are not designed to be self-destructive, right?
Right.
As far as I know, in all of biology, there is nothing that's created with a purpose of destroying itself.
Mhm.
All of creation has the purpose of amplifying itself and creating more, right? Maple trees drop hundreds and thousands of little seeds to recreate itself, right?
Mhm.
It's never trying to break off branches and throw itself on the ground, right?
Yeah.
It's trying to continue
Yeah.
to grow and be, but we don't call the teeny seedling imperfect. We don't call the 10-year-old maple imperfect. We don't call the 30-year-old maple imperfect. We call it perfect
Mhm.
and in growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, as a being of biology, my purpose is to create and expand in whatever way I am able and I enjoy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's just it. That's just it. In whatever way I am able and that I enjoy. And that, to me, that's incredibly important, because society says, we're talking about PCOS, there are some people who have this challenge that will not have children. And if children are something they really, really want,
Yeah.
that can be quite devastating.
Mhm.
But also, it's not totally about what we want. It's about what society still says about women, that our value is connected to whether or not we can pump out a kid. And it's just not true. It's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to do the work of, okay, will I let myself be me? What am I able to do that makes me happy?
Mhm.
Otherwise, I spend so much time looking at what I can't do and what makes me unhappy. And
Yeah.
that's the cycle I get caught in,
Yeah.
right? If I'm right the way I am, like the tiny maple tree, the little seedling, if I'm right the way I am, and the purpose of a biological being is to grow and create, okay, how am I able to grow and how am I able to create? I only can look at what I can do.
Mhm.
Looking at anything I can't do doesn't inform me, doesn't make me capable. It does me no good. It might help me to know what I can't do so that I can steer a little more effectively in what I can do, right? I'm not accidentally chasing a thing.
Yeah.
But in general, mostly what I can't do isn't useful to me. What's useful to me is what I can do.
Mhm.
And it's that type of ability and growth-based mindset that gives us the power to enjoy who we are, right?
Yeah.
I hate screwdrivers if I need them to be hammers. I hate them. They're horrible hammers. I love screwdrivers when I need a screwdriver.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so handy, especially if they're battery operated, right? So if we are trying to use ourselves, live a life that is within the screwdriver when I need a hammer analogy, right?
Mhm.
If I'm trying to be something I'm not, there is no path to self-appreciation, self-love,
Right.
self-care.
Right.
That's literally not on that path. I'm walking
Mhm.
in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I have to think about what I am able to do. And even if it appears to me initially as very small, I have a depression story from my life of sitting on the couch weeping for hours because I can't get off the couch. Too sad to get off the couch. And the thought came to me, what can you do? And I had little kids and there was like socks and stupid stuff all over the living room because I'm too depressed to clean. And that's making me depressed because I should clean because a
Mm-hmm.
good mother cleans, right? So it was just like this
Mm-hmm.
stupid cycle of constant, you suck and there's no point for you. And I don't know, I just clued in on this one little tiny person sock on the floor. And I'm like, I could probably pick up that sock. Took me half an hour to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got it off the couch eventually. And I picked up the one sock and I put it in the hamper. And my next thought was, are you going to let yourself celebrate that? Or are you going to tell yourself what a shit human you are because that's all you were able to do today?
Yeah.
I have two paths. One will lead, like you were talking about, to probably my eventual end, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or the other might lead me someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the someplace else was, but I knew what this path was. Tell myself I'm a shit human because all I could do was pick up a freaking sock today. I know where that path goes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that path. I don't know where this path goes. I just know I don't like that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started celebrating little tiny things. Ooh, I sat up in bed this morning. Look at that. I put my feet on the ground. Little
Mm-hmm.
that other people are like, really? Are you freaking kidding me? You want a cookie for getting up today? Nope. I want a fucking parade. Right? You have no idea what it was to get out of bed today.
Yeah.
I want a brass section. I want a drum corps, and I want people twirling flags. I got up today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You lived my life. You'd want a parade too, And I think being willing to admit my journey, know how hard it was, and quit shaming myself for it, right? Which is part of what I'm hearing out of you, right? Yep, this is where I was, but I'm not going to condemn myself for it. And I'm still challenged. And I'm not going to condemn myself for that either. I'm going to be like, you know what? I have learned some stuff. And sometimes I use it well, and sometimes I don't use it well. But I'm still doing the thing.
Yeah.
And for me, if you're still breathing, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Like to do better. There are people like you, like me, like other folks that I'm interviewing who can help. Get yourself a trainer, get yourself a coach, that kind of stuff. Get your help.
Yeah.
But if you're still sucking air in and out, you've actually accomplished a thing that's worth praise. Because for you, maybe sucking air in and out is about as hard as anything, right? For you, that is climbing Mount Everest. Just sucking air in and out. It's Mount Everest, right? So give yourself the compliment, throw yourself the parade, and then consider the option that there might be a path that leads you to something better. It might not be fireworks and confetti every day of your life. I don't know too many people who have that, but it might be something better and something you are actually able to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so beautiful and inspiring about your story, is that as hard as everything was, without the money for the help, without, not everybody can do it on their own, but there are free podcasts, there are free videos, there are, this kind of stuff, right? Hopefully somebody takes something away from what you and I are talking about that is a little bit useful, right? That's the whole point of the series. Free and available and no strings attached information that will help float somebody's boat. So I think maybe the thing to wrap up with, what would you like to invite people to do who might be struggling to find the proper diagnosis, who might be struggling to look at themselves in the mirror and see an acceptable human being? What would you like to invite them into? Certainly you have your training program, and as I understand it is not exclusive to folks with PCOS, but you do have a particular viewpoint on working out and care of the body, that I think, oh my gosh, would be a welcome relief and a privilege for a lot of people. Certainly me, right? Yeah, the gym, right? I actually
Yeah.
enjoy it
Yeah.
since nobody's there.
Yeah.
So if I could have a trainer in person or on my phone, because you do remote training too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's it. I mean, I have
Yeah,
two
right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With
Yeah.
COVID,
Yeah.
we're all doing, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, I mean, I have an Instagram. That would be the first thing I would say is check out my Instagram. It's mind.motion.pcos. And on there, I'm very active. I show my workouts. I talk about my struggle. I also, in my stories, I'm constantly posting inspiring things from other people that, you know, put into words, thoughts that I can't necessarily put into words. But there's also lots of nutrition information and exercise information on there. And then through there, you can, if you want, you can sign up for a 30-minute consultation. And we just talk about your issues, whatever they are. and yeah, my approach is very much mindset based. I start I have every client before their workouts do a mindset check-in. And this is something I developed when I was in the throes of my recovery. It's to reprogram your mind to emphasize your mental goals, to get you to stop obsessing over what exercise should be doing for your body and instead what it is doing for your mind. And so they check in with how they're feeling. How am I feeling? You don't do anything about it. You just say, okay, well, today I'm really frustrated that I even have to work out. Okay, cool. That's what it is. And then the next question is, what is your long-term mental goal for your working out? So this can have nothing to do with lifting X amount of pounds, burning X amount of calories, completing X amount of reps. It can have nothing to do with your body. It has to do with your mind. And your mind-body connection. So it can be like, I want to pay attention to breath today, or sorry, I want to pay attention. I want to get more present in my body in the long run. Or in the long run, I would love to be able to play with my kids, or something that brings you joy, or that you feel you can carry with you that will feed your life. And then the last question you ask yourself is, what's my goal today? And that can be, oh, there's a problem at work that I want to sort through as I'm counting my reps, or I just want to pay attention to my breath, or, you know, just something that clears your head. And then you go into your workout. And if you need to, you can do the check-in again. If you're starting to wander at the beginning, when this is all new, people tend to go back to what they were, their old thinking habits, because you don't just do one thing and then it's gone. So, and then at the end, they do the same thing, check in. How do you feel as compared to before? Now, this I love doing because we're all about immediate results when it comes to exercise, right? We want to do one workout and then we look like we've been working out our whole lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that never happens, and it never will happen. But what does always happen is you always feel better almost every single time. And so that is why we do, how are we feeling now as compared to before? Because that is the immediate result. That's awesome. That you look for. And then you say, okay, what's my long-term goal? You remind yourself of your long-term goal. And then you say, okay, did I accomplish my goal that I had today mentally? If you didn't, okay, who cares? Like, it's one day. Like I emphasize that with my clients, like, who cares? Like, we do not need to hold on to this workout. We do not need to hold on to whether or not you accomplished your goal. All I want you to hold on to is how you feel. And then that helps people walk away without these negative thoughts. Because I've noticed in my journey, it was all about how creating the space, the energetic space, making sure your workout space energetically is safe for your head and your thoughts, instead of a place where you see it. Because I started associating spaces with certain thoughts, like my garage was where I worked out, and I started associating it with, I hate being there. Well, why? Because you think horrible things when you're there. Yeah. So we want a safe space for where you work out. And it's working wonderfully with everyone I'm working with. They're all of them are saying, you know, I'm enjoying movement. I'm enjoying my workouts. Like, this is one of my clients is like, this is the longest I've ever gone working out. And it's just so, it's all a grand experiment on my end. There's no proof that this works.
There actually is. That's my world. That's the psychology world. And actually
Yeah.
you're doing amazingly well. That's like brilliant. You came up with that on your own. Yes, you should have Nobel Prizes. That's fantastic. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. But I mean, on my end, I've had no training in this. Like I just, this is what's done it for me. And so it's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to see that it's working. So,
and you know, that's where the authenticity comes from. You are sharing what has worked for you. Yes, you have the certification. You did the work. I remember some of your posts with like the, 900 3x5 study cards.
No, 1,300.
1,300. I'm sorry, 1,300.
They were like up to my elbow.
Yeah. I know the work you put into knowing your stuff. You are definitely knowledgeable, but that personal journey that you can bring to your clients, I think is the gorgeousness of it. There is no doubt about your credibility, but for somebody like me, your authenticity is what would keep me with you. Emma, thank you. My goodness.
Yes, thank you.
What an amazing time talking with you. We will be putting links to Emma's Instagram and my website and different things that you can do to reach out to each one of us. But be in touch. Let us know how we can help. There is a path you can start taking that leads to better stuff.
And I'm always open to talking to people. There's no fee for that. I will help you. I will talk to you. I'll text you. I don't mind spending the time. It's more important to me to help.
Yeah. And everybody that I've been interviewing, I think we all share that common heart that we so much want to give the good that we have to others. But thank you. This has been a privilege and a joy, and I'm so glad we got to do this.
Me too.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.